Welcome back to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. I am joined today by my co-host, Hanna.
Hello.
And our producer, Ninja, Fish. You're Ninja today.
Nice.
See, now I feel like I can't answer.
Why? Ninja's
Because
I'm a ninja. You can't know I'm here.
They live in the shadow.
Yeah, but they don't always hide from everybody.
No, but I'm not killing you.
Have you ever seen a ninja?
Obviously, I'm right here, Hannah.
How do they become other ninjas? They have to, like, teach ninja
You
stuff.
never know how many ninjas are in a room.
Yeah.
It's true.
And it's like with mice. If you see one, there are at least 100.
Ninja?
There are at least 100 ninjas in this room with me, Andy.
Thank God I set those ninja traps. You gotta put, like, a little bit of peanut butter on it.
And that's why I'm the only one left, because I hate peanut butter.
Yeah, we knew that.
Okay. So we have some listener feedback.
I know.
And it's not about ninjas.
Okay, cool.
It's a little disappointing. So the first one is from Bill Franz, and this is in regards to the Station Nightclub. Well, actually, these are both from Station Nightclub Fire episode, popular episode.
Wow.
And so I'm going to say take this with a grain of salt because I did not look into what he is saying here. I'm just reading his. And honestly, I don't remember the conversation.
I know. This is like, it's going back a while.
Yeah, this was, does it have a date? I don't have a date here. So he says, thanks for the conversation. Small details. There were 462 people inside the building at ignition. I don't remember what we said.
I don't remember either, but I will say there's, in several articles, there were different amounts of people listed.
Course, you know, because, I mean, it's a nightclub. It's not like you get a super accurate count, and then some people are going to tell you how many, like, crowd members there are.
Yeah,
People are going to remember to count the employees.
Right.
He said about 12 to 14 folks left the station early to find an ATM, to smoke weed, to put a coat in a car, to go home, to a wife with labor pains, etc. Oh,
this guy sounds like he was there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like...
How do you know all those things?
Yeah. I mean,
oh my gosh.
Etc. Videographer Brian Butler was with CBS affiliate WPRI TV. I don't remember what...
Yeah, I definitely vagued out his affiliation because he wasn't there representing...
Oh, okay.
that specific news station, but I remembered he had like a smaller, like exactly what that guy just said.
Yeah.
So good to know people care about that. I will make sure to get those details the next time.
So this says the Gerbs shot. That must have been the fire with the fire technics.
Yep.
Shot 15 feet for 15 seconds. Again, I don't remember what we said or like these were things we didn't know.
I think a lot of this is just details we didn't get into.
Yeah.
No, I think I did. I knew how. I don't know if I mentioned that they went off for 15 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know.
I probably said several because I like to round.
He said it only took 7 seconds for the pyro to ignite the foam, not 30. Okay. I don't know who was counting.
Well, you can see it in the
video.
footage.
Right,
you can literally count it. Yeah.
Let's see. Bakel is pronounced... Okay, it's pronounced Beakley. It's a B-I-E-C-H-E-L-E is pronounced Beakley. Mm-hmm. I don't know what.
I don't recall either. I'm so sorry, but this is a lot of like good...
there's a lot of little pointers.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of good stuff.
The permanent memorial opened in May of 2017. This says Ty wasn't the bass player. That was Dave Felice. Again, I don't remember. This was so long ago that we recorded this. I don't remember what we were
me
saying.
either.
And it says the first of 2 stage doors, 6 inches apart, open inwards. No other door opened inwards. I don't know what that's in reference to.
Because
but I think the door. Yeah, they were like.
I think he's talking about the main exit doors.
Yeah.
So he's saying those opened
inwards.
No, he's saying those didn't. He's saying that opened the way it was supposed to.
Which is weird because I feel like every other
yeah.
report I've ever heard. And that was like one of the big issues with this, that they opened inwards.
Right.
So, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't investigate anything there. I just reading the feedback. And Bill, thank you for the feedback and for listening, of course. And then we have a Lance Hurley. And this is also from the Station Nightclub fire. And he says, this woman is a real damn storyteller. Horrible. But it's like, ... horrible. I think he means the story's horrible.
Hanna, you're probably not horrible.
What?
That makes no sense.
I think you need to be pretty sure of this before you come to me with
this woman
this.
is a real damn storyteller.
Oh, ... This,
horrible.
yes, the thing. Okay.
And it's on the Station Nightclub fire. Like, I read it, I'm like, that seems like... So, Lance, thank you? Question mark?
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was a rough recording. I remember that. That was probably like the story was.
The story was
Don't
rough.
look at me like I'm insulting you.
No. I thought you meant like I was like, did something happen?
No. It was just like because it was so close, kind of to in proximity and time. And
yes.
It was just.
No, I remember coming into it and
was
like
an unpleasant story to like recap.
It was. It was entirely like a really upsetting to research.
Yeah.
And I got like most of it from recorded news that is still on like YouTube today. And obviously articles, but most of it came from like the collected footage that was reported almost on the spot.
Right.
So, besides, I think like there was a news thing that came out maybe 2 days after that gave the logistics of everything.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm sure one of like the local stations. And I forget which one I said I used the most of, but they all generally said like the same thing. And there was one that like gave a map. And do you guys remember me talking about that?
I feel like we looked at the map.
Yes, we did.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah, that gave a map expressing like how everything went down. But yeah, there were a lot of little finite details in there, and I am super guilty of rounding usually. So I don't blame that guy at all for just being like, well, let me clarify these things a little bit more. Specifically, I think I don't know, sometimes with like stories like that, you're like what you said, there's like so much
there's no way
proximity.
You could accurately know.
Well, like there's just a lot of proximity, so I feel like you feel a lot of ways when you're telling it, and there's a lot of other things that you might end up prioritizing over some of the details.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So thanks for... No, I'm kidding. What are we talking about today, Hannah?
We are going to be talking about Frederick Douglass.
I knew that.
Okay, good. You did?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I told you I remembered what we had talked about.
So let's just right off the bat. I know I just literally just said I love to graze
Round things?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is going to be a super cliff notes of Frederick Douglass because he had such an extensive life.
Yeah.
And accomplishments and just...
So we're going to kind of do like the bullet points.
Yeah. Of things leading up to his Massachusetts-based time.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'll like go up to the end of life for him too. But
wow. Spoilers.
I know, sorry. He did not make it. Some people don't know that, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard
that. He wrote several autobiographical things at different points in his life. So like once he became free, or at least escaped, he wrote like a story about that. Like so there's so many he has so many books out. Which is great because there's so many details pulled into what I looked up right from his own words. Yeah. Which I thought was
that's cool. Yeah.
Really cool. And there's a lot to him. Like we could make this a 5-part episode if we really
I feel like every time
put the time
something from that time frame comes up, like his name is mentioned.
Right.
Like he was everywhere.
Yeah, he was. So yeah, just to clear code it, he did a lot of stuff. I'm not going to get to all of it. And I tried to just streamline his story to like the best of my ability to make it palatable for how it connects to Massachusetts. Okay. So he was born February 1817 or 1818.
Okay.
Because records were
off.
Spotty. Yeah. in Cordova, Maryland. No records of his exact date, but he does recall that his mom used to call him his little Valentine.
Okay.
So he did end up celebrating his birthday on Valentine's Day because of that.
Oh, all right.
And his birth name is Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey.
Wow.
His mother is Harriet Bailey. His father is officially unknown, but it's believed to be his master at the time, Aaron Anthony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, rumored, believed.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. So he was removed from his mom's care during infancy and put under the care of his grandmother, Betsy Bailey. And then at 6 years old, he was sold to the Y House plantation that was ran by...
Y, like the letter Y?
W-Y-E.
Okay.
That's right?
No, just the first time you said that, I thought you said the White House, and I'm like, wait, what?
We're unlocking a lot of history
I was just
today.
clarifying.
The Y, yeah.
For myself and the listeners. Right.
Ran by the Alds.
Okay.
I believe some of the pieces like put together from what I was reading like got a little bit dicey with what owners of what plantations were where at that time. So he was 6 years old nonetheless, so he's still really young.
Yeah.
And just separated from his family altogether. After there was a very cruel overseer on that plantation who died not too long after he arrived there, and he was given to Mrs. Auld.
Okay.
And he was around the age of 8. So she started to teach him the alphabet and start literacy lessons with him.
All right.
She's described by Frederick as a really kind and like just good-natured, good-hearted woman.
Slave owner.
Yeah.
Okay.
She provided him with fresh clothes and linens and just made sure that he was fed, and obviously going in and teaching him the skill in life was something very rare for the time. But Hugh Auld, the owner of the plantation, did not agree with this at all. He didn't want her teaching Frederick anymore, so she eventually gave in, and he said that to partake in the lessons, he said it would encourage the enslaved to desire more freedom, which is...
Yeah.
It's like they knew exactly what they were doing.
Oh,
you know
for
what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
Such an obvious tactic.
Yeah.
And Frederick overheard this, and from there on out understood like what his goal needed to be and what his exit out of slavery was.
Okay.
So he was very motivated at that age.
So the guy was right, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he started learning how to read from the white kids that lived nearby on property. Didn't say like which ones, but that neighborhood kids pretty much started learning from them. That made me so nervous because how many like little kids don't know what not to say to their parents. So like if one of the like
one of the kids like, I was with
I was teaching one of the
little Freddie
how to read. They're like, what? Like, you know what I mean?
I bet you that probably, for sure, that probably happened.
So that made me super nervous for him. But either way, it did what it was supposed to. So he did learn some skills from that and continued his own like learning after he was stopped being taught from Mrs. Auld.
Yeah. Which I would think it would probably be difficult too, because if they didn't want them learning to read, I'm sure they weren't permitted to have books and whatnot.
No. Yeah, for sure. He was later sold to a William Freeland. I did want to point out, I believe it was, most of the stuff that I'm reading is all like the common knowledge, quote unquote, about him. So it was just pretty much everywhere. It said hired by William Freeland.
Okay.
And I thought that was an interesting term to use.
That is that's a weird.
I was like, I didn't check like the notes. You know, afterwards it's like corrections.
Yeah.
I didn't check to see if maybe that was corrected. I'm going to give them the benefit that it was.
Right.
Because I don't think he was
hired.
I don't think he applied and interviewed for this. So at that new plantation, he started teaching the other enslaved people there to read.
Yeah.
And he would use the New Testament because they would hold services and stuff on Sunday.
Sure.
and they used that as a source to learn literacy. So they were caught after 6 months and no longer allowed to
have services.
I think just the Bible part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Huh. And then at 16 years old, I think.
So he's teaching people to read, like.
He's a teenager.
As a teenager.
He's an adolescent. Yeah. Yeah. So at 16, he. I couldn't figure out who it was. I'm sure it's written somewhere, but he encounters what is quoted as a slave breaker. So just a really terrible overseer or master, someone who's just maniacally cruel.
Yeah.
And abused and tortured people. So on one occasion, he was getting beaten for something, and Frederick rebelled and ended up fighting back within that altercation and winning.
Okay.
And I guess the guy never touched him again.
Wow.
Yeah.
I figured that would go incredibly bad.
Yeah, I think the guy kind of got the wind knocked out of his sails and almost didn't want to even admit to it.
Oh.
So it's if you follow up and do something in retaliation, then you admitted that you lost.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I would think. A pride thing.
Okay, I can see that.
From my interpretation. I wasn't there, but sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Listeners, I just completely knocked the table. My bad. So this is actually when he definitely tried to escape, but maybe from that instance he was just hey, I'm stronger than I think I am. I'm going to give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't successful. His first attempt, he was caught, brought back. 1837, Frederick met his future wife, Anna Murray, in Baltimore, and Anna was a free black woman, which encouraged him even more so to get his freedom. So she also, in her status, was able to assist him in a way, get him the things he needed help arrange.
To, plans and
or money.
Whatever. Yeah,
whatever he needed at the time to figure that out. She was able to at least help him with that because he didn't have anything. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So September 3rd, 1838, he escaped by train traveling to the tip of Maryland. And then he could have gone into Pennsylvania, which was a free state, but I guess the plan was better arranged if he went straight through Delaware.
Okay.
Because it was just better that way.
For reasons.
Yes, for reasons that I think in the time made a lot of sense.
Right,
I trust that. So, but he disguised himself as a sailor.
Okay.
Through Delaware. And with assistance of Anna to arrange what was going on. She met him at the top, and then he made it to Quaker City, Philadelphia.
Okay.
Which was a safe place for enslaved people looking for freedom. Because the Quakers. Yeah, they're the best. We love the Quakers. His total escape time was about 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
So not
too pretty quick.
The train definitely boosted. I think he took a train through Delaware too.
Right.
So in 1838, so was that same year? Yeah, same year, but a little bit later. Him and Anna moved to New Bedford.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they eventually settled on the surname Douglass. So they had to. They decided to make their.
Was that to kind of hide him?
In a way, but he also went through 5 other surnames before he landed on Douglas. And there was, I think, one was Johnson.
Yeah.
One was another name. He had a few other ones that I think the one he was using when they got to New Bedford, he decided against because a lot of other people had that surname.
Oh, okay.
So
to avoid confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And they got the name Douglas from the book The Lady of the Lake.
Okay.
Because he was a reader. So, and they went to New Bedford, and it was because New Bedford was an established abolitionist center.
Oh,
yeah.
New Bedford.
I know. Isn't that so cool? And it was where he started his, grassroots as an abolitionist.
Yeah.
So, he first step into this was finding a congregation. And his first attempt at one, like the first church he looked at, he decided against because it was a predominantly white church, but it was segregated.
Okay.
Which he was not for. So he decided to join the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. And he became a licensed preacher in 1839. And that's where he started growing his public speaking skills.
Okay.
So right in Little New Bedford.
Wow. I had no idea.
I know. Super cool. And then their house is like marked with a plaque.
Yeah. I wonder how close it is to Liz Borden's house.
But she's in Fall River.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Sorry, people.
I mean, not far, relatively.
Not far, yeah, I mean. Yeah. It's only like, what, 15 minutes drive, maybe?
It depends, like, traffic and,
yeah.
which bridge you take, whatever.
It was a late night last night.
It's okay. I honestly get those two cities confused all the time.
Yeah.
Because they're like twin cities, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they are. I've heard someone say that.
Thanks for backing me up there.
You're welcome. I do. I really do get them confused. One of my brothers bounced between the two for a couple little bit of time.
Yeah.
And I'd always be like, "Where are you? New Bedford?" He's like, "Fall River." And then like,
and you're like,
yeah. Same thing. Just give me your address. 1840, he delivered a speech in Elmira, New York, and it says it was at a station of the Underground Railroad, which I don't know what kind of station this is because they took many different shapes and sizes. Some were just to hide and conceal.
Yeah.
And so for me, imagining that there was an area appropriate to give a speech must have been a very safe space to do that.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Do you know what I
mean?
And he became part of several different organizations involving the abolitionist movement. So he was just ready to dive right in to that that part of society at the time, which was to abolish slavery. And one of his inspirations was William Lloyd Garrison, and he subscribed to the Liberator. You know about that?
No.
Never heard of the Liberator?
No.
Oh. It's a big deal.
All right.
Just trust me on that one. So 1841, Garrison spoke at a meeting in New Bedford, and Douglass was present. He met him there. And a couple days later, Garrison invited Douglass to speak at the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society and to tell his story there. So to talk about, like, where he came from, how he escaped, all that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just his life story. And then later that year, they would move to Lynn. So they weren't in New Bedford for a super long time.
Yeah.
But Lynn is still relatively local. What's the thing about Lynn?
The city of sun.
You never come out the way you went in?
Something like that.
Yeah. So, even though...
I think he wrote that rhyme.
Frederick Douglass?
Yeah, I heard that somewhere.
Even though the abolishment was a firm belief of his, he also believed in other things firmly, and that was just like for all people to be treated the same. So like I said earlier, he wouldn't join that church because it was segregated.
Right.
So he was not only fighting for abolishment but protesting segregation at the same time. He got into some trouble because some public transportation was segregated and him and some other people were doing like sit-ins.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that, like, I don't know, in my mind, like, the big push, like the anti-segregation push was, you know, Martin Luther King era.
Civil rights era, yeah.
Yeah, to think it's gone from, literally, it took from the Civil War to, like, the 50s?
Yeah, 50s, 60s. Yeah, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. When the women's suffrage movement started, he was joining some of those things too. So this is kind of like
I mean,
a little bit later.
He
but
seems like he's
and he was the only black person to attend. I think it was like a New York suffrage rally.
Huh.
But he was like firmly believed that women should be a part, like that they are a vital resource. Their mind is like as equal, if not better than men's. Like he was totally just across the board, a firm believer that everyone needed to be treated
the same.
Yes, exactly. He took part in the Anti-Slavery Society tour. So it was a 6 months of traveling and speeches.
Okay. I'm like, what kind of tour are we talking about?
It was just...
And over here on the...
Yeah, it's just, to get the...
Yeah. Like a speaking tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
He experienced a lot of attacks and anti-protests during that.
Mm-hmm.
And... It's a silly note of mine. Okay. On one occasion, he did need some saving from a really rowdy group that was beating him. And the Pendleton, Indiana Quakers stepped in.
No kidding.
And dragged him out. And I said they were the Hells Angels of the time.
That's what I think of when I think of the Quakers. The Hells Angels. Is that what it said, Hannah?
No, that was my own just opinion piece on that. 1840.
No, let's recap for a second. Why are they the Hells Angels?
Hells Angels are always like hired as bodyguards.
Oh, right, like kind of like the Rolling Stones thing.
Yeah.
Got it.
And like I went to a festival and the Hells Angels were the security there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I get the connection.
Right.
All right.
So 1845. He wrote his first autobiographical narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, and it was a bestseller. People couldn't believe that a black guy and someone from slavery wrote it because it was just so well done.
Right.
And it sold 11,000 copies at its time.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a lot.
I feel like probably a lot.
Probably a lot. Then.
Yeah. And then translated to French and Dutch.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Did he translate it? Did he speak French?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he did.
All right.
He might have. It didn't say he did, so okay. I'm going to go with that.
Because I hear the Dutch are the Hells Angels of Europe.
Yeah. Because of the buzz around this book, and many other things going on, he was still technically a runaway slave.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, are people, like, looking for him? Like,
it's like,
is he, like...
Well, he got from, like, other people around him, they're like, hey, you got a lot of attention on you now. Like, And I'm sure it was something he was thinking himself.
Yeah, I suppose being a fugitive and writing a best-selling book are two things you probably don't want at the same time.
No.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to be famous and also not want people to find you.
Right. So he ended up moving to Europe for a little bit and kind of nomadically moving to Europe. He spent time in England, Ireland, and Scotland.
Yeah.
Among the more prevalent places he went to. And I don't mean prevalent, I meant more of his time there than anywhere else. And he partnered with the abolitionists there and continued giving speeches and continued his work there and, like, just didn't go into hiding there. He still just did what he was doing there.
Okay.
He became Scotland's anti-slavery agent.
Did Scotland have slavery?
This was like...
I mean, it was part of Great Britain, and Great Britain had slaves.
Yes,
okay, all right. I honestly had no idea.
He said exactly what I was going to slave. And he actually partnered with the person who was a big abolitionist in England, and I totally forgot to write his name down. But he was like one of the people that pushed Parliament to abolish slavery.
Sherlock Holmes?
In England, yeah.
All right.
You've heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
It's crazy.
Seriously, guys?
I didn't think anyone actually knew about him, but...
Thomas Clarkson is probably the one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, that was him.
Thank you, research.
I was like, here. Is that Sherlock Holmes' real name for a second?
Okay, Hannah, do you think Sherlock Holmes is a real person?
No.
Okay, before I asked it like that, did you think Sherlock Holmes was a real person?
No, of course not.
Okay.
He is the Hell's Angel of detectives, though.
Yeah.
Yes. Deersucker cap and a leather jacket. Yeah. He and Watson in a little sidecar on his motorcycle.
He finally formally filed for his freedom because if you can remember, people could do that in the courts. They made it available for people to do that. We did that.
Oh my God.
We covered it in the.
We did. And
the Boston episode.
Yep. What's the famous case that I am totally blanking on? I feel like it's like around the tip of my tongue.
Dred Scott?
Dred Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not apropos of nothing. It was just stuck in my head, and I had needed that answer.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he had to, raise funds and get that taken care of, which he did.
Yeah.
He also had to raise funds to go to and from Europe, but the book helped with a good
I was gonna say
amount
he
of
sold 11,000 books.
The book was definitely good timing on his part.
Did it GoFundMe?
Yeah. He returned to the U.S. in 1847, and he started the North Star, the abolitionist newspaper or newsletter. And as the movement grew, so did the opinions of those within the movement. So we already talked about how he was a pro, everyone needs to be equal.
Yep.
Well, there were people within the abolitionist group movement that believed that black people shouldn't be owned, but that they still weren't equal.
Right.
And there were varying degrees of that.
Yeah.
Not even just that one example, just I believe in this, but not this little piece of it.
Right.
And it might have had nothing to do with that part.
But I feel like
it could have
people
just
still
been,
have those kind of beliefs.
Well, some people believed in I believe in slavery not going as far as these state lines that we have here and not moving out west, but they can stay in the South. There were literally so many different varying opinions within it. So he ended up losing some solidarity he had with different abolitionists within it, and Garrison being one of them.
And it's funny because when you mentioned that he supported the women's suffrage movement, it kind of took me back because, and again, this is there's multiple opinions in the whole push, but there was a segment of the women's suffrage movement that had racist beliefs.
Yeah.
As in, well, we should be able to vote. If black men can vote, then we should be able to vote because we're better than they are.
Yeah.
And that was a legit rah-rah argument for the movement. So when he supported that, not that he wouldn't support it, but it's just kind of that's kind of weird, one of those when someone argues, who has distinct different ideology and suddenly agrees with you.
Yeah.
When you're well, okay, let me reassess what I think.
Right.
Well, yeah, what's that Onion headline? The worst person you know just made a good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
His work and efforts were extensive, to say the least. We've just grazed the surface.
Yeah.
This guy committed his whole life to this once he was free. And we crossed paths.
How old was he when he got free? Did we?
He was a teen.
Okay.
Or late teen.
Late teen.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was 15, 16 after the fight and he left right after that, probably 16, maybe 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was still young.
Yeah.
We crossed a story with him when we talked about the 54th Infantry.
Yep.
For Massachusetts. So he was now went from there's this bigger idea of the abolitionist movement, but there's also making slavery illegal. But hey, we also need a fight for that. Right. So helping to recruit people, and Black Americans specifically, in that fight.
Yeah.
So and that's where we saw him, during Civil War times.
Right.
And during their life, Anna and Douglas had 5 children together. Anna passed away in 1882. He did remarry, and he was married to that wife until he died.
Yeah.
And 2 of his sons were both in the service, and one was in the 54th Infantry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did say that when we covered it.
Yeah, I think we talked about that, yeah.
That's probably
But
happened.
I'm happy you were still as surprised about it.
That's
Could have been new information.
Memory's pretty crappy.
Yeah, that's okay.
Come on, Hannah, he had a rough night.
Yeah.
He's very... It was late.
You're doing fine. Yeah. All right. 1877. This one, knocked my boots off. He reconciled with his former owner, Thomas Aldie. on all
This
these.
is the guy that didn't want him to learn to read and write.
on all these deathbed.
How do you reconcile with someone for owning you? That's weird. That's going to be an awkward conversation.
Yeah. If anything, like reading all the stuff that I have, I'm just so... Because he writes about it in one of his books.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got to read that book. Because he elaborates on it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like closure.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But F that guy.
Yeah, I mean, some people are like, oh, I don't hold grudges. I mean, I'm not those people.
I don't know. So eventually he ended up settling in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. He died February 20th, 1895, and he was 77-ish years old.
Right around his birthday.
Right around his birthday. Yep, February to February. Reading through some other things, there was some chit-chat that he had a couple of affairs.
Okay.
But I was like, I don't feel like talking about that. But hey, we're at the end, and I'm throwing it on there. But one of them, there was one so plainly stated, like, person who worked with him, because it was like, it was just, his wife was suspicious of a woman he worked with.
Okay.
That's
happens.
That's current time problems.
That happens.
Yeah. And another person he worked with was just like, no, he's like strictly business. So, but I think with anyone like that, anyone in a political view, there's always going to be like
for sure
something to try and drag them down with, especially someone in his position. He was not liked by a lot of people.
I'm sure, yeah.
So,
and there's also just people that don't have trouble wrapping their head around a man and a woman being friends.
Yeah, for sure. But that was literally the least important thing about him. I just like kind of thought of it at the end. So he ended up being married, buried with his first wife, and then his second wife, when she passed away, was buried with them.
Oh, that's an awkward afterlife.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. A ghost throuple.
So, I mean, that's really what I have on him. I told you it was a very abbreviated version of his life. I am so interested to read some of his things, though.
But when you do, we should like do additional episodes.
Yeah.
I feel like we can go back and recap.
For sure. Yeah. Because it sounds like he could really just like, he wrote them at different times in his life. So it's like after he wrote the one about being like escaping slavery, it was like, okay, well now I've done all this with my time, and I'm going to write about the abolitionist movement. And now I've done all this, and the Civil War is happening. I'm going to write about this. It's really cool.
It's crazy to think of like how prolific of a writer he was, and having just struggled to learn to read and write.
Really. Just a really, so much there. There's so much to this person.
So this is Frederick Douglass, part 1.
Yeah. Frederick Douglass, Cliff Notes.
Yeah, this is like that little top at Wikipedia that gives you the rough overview, and then like we'll dive back in.
Yeah, it was very interesting though. I know there's more interesting topic points about him that I think could definitely take an entire conversation.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on the list.
We will.
And if you guys have suggestions, you can always email us at oldcolonycast@gmail.com, and we'll add it to the list.
We always need new ideas.
New ideas would always be helpful. And, and if you guys give us feedback, we will read it. And I'll try not to make it sound like you're insulting Hanna.
I literally was like, did he not read this before? He's saying it right now.
No, and the funny thing is, like, when I first saw it, I remember going, oh, that's weird and funny. And then I just kind of forgot about it. So
hilarious.
Then, like, as I'm reading it again, I'm like, oh, how do I enunciate ...
Yeah, ellipses. Yeah. And I use ellipses all the time. Everyone's always like, what do you mean? What do you mean
when
when
you have weird pauses when you talk anyways?
Yeah, exactly. It's just my natural cadence.
Yeah. So I don't know why you think this guy should be different.
I didn't.
When he types.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
But.
So.
Yeah.
I think this is the part where we stop talking. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.